What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another great edition of The Hit. I am Logan Graffia, and my man Calvin Rhines is back after being off on business last week. Glad to have you back, Calvin, because last week I kept calling my friend Johan your name every once in a while, and he was catching me on it. Goes to show you that can't do the show without you, so don't leave. So we're gonna get right into it. College football, Calvin. College football. We love college football. There was a huge shakeup in the entire top 25. Really, so many top 10 teams or even top 15 teams lost over the weekend. One of which I'm very upset about, but it is what it is. So you have number two, Ohio State losing. You have number five, LSU losing. You have number eight, Clemson losing. And then if you go down a little further, you have number 15 Notre Dame losing to USC, and then you can't forget number 9 Oregon losing to Oregon State. And I want to get your take on what do you think about all these losses, Calvin? Were you expecting any of these losses? If so, which game wasn't a surprise to you? And also, what game was a surprise loss to you?
I think Clemson, not Clemson. Clemson, I was expecting. I've been saying it about every week I've been on that Clemson will lose eventually. Like they're going to get exposed. They've been exposed twice now, and I know that just from personally playing against them people. Like I knew what they were. The LSU loss was a little surprising. Um, what was it? A&M that you guys lost to? I mean,
Yeah, I wasn't
that's
expecting it.
I mean, y'all got to handle business. I mean, this ain't the first time I've seen y'all lose to A&M. Shout out to that 7, 8, 9, however many overtime games it was a couple years ago. But
It was a
um,
7.
yeah, 7 overtime games. So I mean, Texas A&M. I mean, it's the same situation like I said earlier this year with Florida State. How that's a trap game for you guys. That like y'all have to handle business in that, and it's just really unfortunate that y'all didn't. Um, it sucks. It sucks because with 3 losses, I mean your chance of getting to the playoffs is basically zilch now. I mean that's just how it goes. Even if you beat Georgia, I mean you're still a 3 loss team, and I mean you still have TCU undefeated, Michigan and Georgia undefeated, and USC only has 1 loss. Ohio State only has 1 loss, and Alabama has 2 losses. Tennessee has 2 losses. Penn State, like all these guys are gonna get an OVU regardless. The Ohio State one hurt my soul because I am an Ohio State fan. For those who didn't know, um, that wasn't supposed to happen. I'm really surprised that Michigan actually beat us because I was watching some of the pregame stuff and a lot of people had Ohio State winning and they're talking about it. It might be a defensive game and all this, but I mean we just got beat. I mean that's just how that worked out. But everything else I kind of see happening. Um, man, TCU though, shout out to TCU. I mean that's big money right there. TCU 12-0 in the Big 12. They're going to go to the playoffs if they handle business. That's all they gotta do. Just gotta keep handling business. But as of now, it's Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and USC as your 4. If the playoffs start today, they'll be in. Um, but man, sucks for LSU, sucks for Ohio State. They really did not handle business. But I mean, that Michigan Ohio State game, we all kind of knew that would really shape number 2 or potentially 3, depending on how that went. So now you see it. So I think this top 4 that you have right here, I think that's pretty much the guys that's going to get in.
It's a crazy top four, if you ask me, because when is the last time we've seen USC even mentioned in the top four? It's been quite a long time, Calvin. The last time, if you ask me personally, when I felt USC was relevant was probably when Pete Carroll was there. It's been quite a long time. Now, I'm not saying they've been horrible since he's left, but they haven't been this good in quite some time. Now, as for TCU, I don't ever remember TCU being this highly ranked before. I think last time they were this highly ranked was when Trevon Boykin was their quarterback, and
It had to be the Rose Bowl year, man. Had to be.
it's been quite some time. And now you got Michigan. Michigan, I was expecting to lose to Ohio State. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was expecting Michigan to lose, but that Michigan team very much surprised me, and I think they are a. I can't believe I'm saying the number two team in the country is a sleeper team, but I'm gonna say Michigan's a sleeper team. Now I still have Georgia winning it all, I do, because Georgia just seems like they haven't figured out. Now, at first, when they first started the game against Georgia Tech, they were kind of, struggling a little bit with Georgia Tech, letting them stick around. And I'm just like, my goodness, why are they doing this? Then they became Georgia in the fourth quarter and just absolutely took it to them. Now, the matchup with LSU against Georgia, Calvin, what matchup do you think is going to either give LSU trouble, or what matchup do you think is favorable for LSU in this game?
I don't really think any of them are favorable, man. I mean, Jaden Daniels is banged up. He was seen in a walking boot after the game. And then we all know how absolutely terrifying that Georgia defense is. And we've seen LSU start slow in a lot of games this year. You can't do that against Georgia. You can't be slow, period, at any point in the game. I mean, we've seen what they did to Tennessee, who arguably has one of the best offenses in college football right now. Absolutely destroyed them, made them look like easy work. And that's saying something. That was a statement for the Georgia team. Um, if Jane Daniels is completely healthy, even if he plays and he's not fully healthy, I mean that alone is going to hinder you a little bit. I just don't see this being a favorable matchup in any case. Offense, defense. I mean, the defense for LSU starting to come around, but like even then, I mean Georgia has played pretty decently on offense. So I mean, I don't know. If you would have asked me last week before the A&M game and before Jane Daniels get hurt, I probably would have told you it'd been a little bit better off. But I don't know. It's looking really tough.
Well, yes. I mean, they said it was a high ankle sprain for Jaden Daniels, but Brian Kelly has been quite adamant saying that he expects Jaden to play in the SEC championship game, as well as Josh Williams, who we held out against Texas A&M. And I'm not saying he would have been an even a better factor in the game at running back, but you can see where we were missing Josh Williams. John Emery kind of held it down a little bit, but what I saw from LSU against A&M was just what I saw maybe weeks ago against Tennessee. It was just this looked like this LSU team kind of like, I was already thinking about Atlanta. Hey, we're going to Atlanta to play Georgia. We're not let's just this game's gonna be a cakewalk, and that's how I think that they took it. Now Brian Kelly may say they didn't do that, but I've been in locker rooms before where I've been around teams where we're saying, okay, we're going to go beat this team. We're thinking about next week already, and then ultimately we lost. So I'm sure you've been on teams like that before too. I'm not saying I don't know if you have or not, but I'm sure that once upon a time you have.
Yeah. I've been on one this year. I mean,
Oh, jeez. Um. So now, do you think it's going to be a blowout for LSU? Do you even? All right, I'm not even going to ask that. Percentage chance of LSU winning this game against Georgia?
well, my favorite saying is, man, anybody can get beat at any time. So I don't want to say zero. That's an impossible thing. Um, I'll give y'all maybe about 25 to 30% to win that. I think it'd be interesting to see y'all win because that would kind of shake some stuff up a little bit, and I like to see things get shaken up because sometimes I thrive off of negativity, and Georgia having some negativity is a positive in my book. So 25 30%. Um, this is going to be one of those games. Obviously, this is not your guys' last game, and you guys are going to go to a bowl game regardless. But you can see it that way, right? It's the last game of the regular season. You can put a damper on Georgia, and you can win your side of the SEC. So there's still a lot to fight for here. I wouldn't. I'm not going to discount LSU. I'm not going to take them lightly because we can possibly see a Georgia team that's going to come out here and snooze a little bit and have that stupor of, hey, we're going to the playoffs regardless, and they might not handle business. I can see it happening because you usually see teams like Georgia lose around this week, last week. That's usually when you see it. You've seen it with Clemson. You've seen it with Ohio State. They handle business all season, but then when it gets close and when games really matter, because games and seasons are really determined in November, late November. If you know, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's just proven. So I can see a way where Georgia comes out here and just stinks. because they're just sleepwalking, looking to next week. So hopefully, if you guys can capitalize on that, you just gotta start fast. But 25-30%, man.
I'm okay with that. I don't see a blowout like some people are saying that, oh, Georgia's going to beat LSU 48-0. I don't see that. But we got to move on to a different team. Let's talk about the Tulane Green Wave, Calvin. They have been making, no pun intended, waves this year. And there's a rumor swirling around that I'm sure you have seen. Tulane head coach Willie Fritz might be on the move to Georgia Tech, but it might not be until after the AAC championship. I've already heard from someone like Chris Dotson, who is with SI and Pelican Scoop on Twitter, reporting that if Willie Fritz should take the job, that Tulane has high interest in Coach Prom. Now, that would be very interesting, Calvin, to leave a place like Jackson State, which is an HBCU, which Dion absolutely loves, to go to Tulane, that is not an HBCU at all.
Not in the
But
slightest.
not in the slightest. But it would be an FBS team. He can turn that program into a contender. Because if you think about this, people are not thinking about this. If Dion goes to Tulane, he will bring his two sons with him. He will bring probably Travis Hunter with him. He will probably bring a plethora of people with him, and then Tulane's back on track. Like, I would say Tulane would probably be a top 15 team strictly off of Dion just being there. And all the recruits that Tulane can get. I mean, Dion would probably recruit the heck out of New Orleans. I mean, who in New Orleans wouldn't want to go play for Dion Sanders? But also, the academic factor is there because Tulane also really cares about their academics. I mean, you have to be really, really smart to go to Tulane. I mean, hell, comedian Ken Jeong went there for God's sake. So I want to get your take, not on the whole coaching situation, but Tulane has a AAC championship to play for. It's against UCF. Now, do you think that they come out with this victorious, or do you think that with all of the Willie Fritz rumors that they will get distracted and ultimately lose in this championship game against UCF this weekend?
No, I don't see him getting upset. I see in a lot of situations when there's a team that's potentially going through a potential coaching change, or a team that is going through a coaching change. I mean, if you look at Sonny Cumbie, my head coach this year, when he accepted the job last year, he was still the interim head coach at Texas Tech, and they still had their bowl game by the time he was announced as the Bulldogs head coach. But he came to us, he talked to us, he introduced himself to us, he was with the team with us, and then he said, "Hey, I got to go back for this one last game, to fulfill my duties as the interim head coach in the Texas Tech bowl game," and they beat Mississippi State, I believe it was. So you see in a lot of cases, I bring him up as an example because that's the one I know the best. But you see in a lot of these cases that the teams usually play better. We just played against UAB. Um, UAB was a 5-win team, and they had to beat us to get into bowl contention. And their head coach is retiring, and sad to say, they beat us. And I'm not gonna say it was a bad loss. It wasn't a good loss. I mean, what loss is good? But um, they play well. A lot of these teams that go through these little coaching things, they usually don't really miss a step. I mean, even Auburn. I can see Auburn coming out here, maybe winning because they're going through some stuff. It's very weird how that works. But I will say, because I saw one of your tweets, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit, about you saying that you don't think Dion should leave. And I agree with that because as nice as it would be for Tulane and to see, a potential hometown team be successful, what Coach Prime has done for HBCUs, me as obviously a black man, I mean, what he has done for HBCUs, because we all know HBCUs and the SWAC used to run the NFL, right? Guys was getting drafted out of the SWAC all the time. The SWAC was the SEC back then, right? Some of your best Hall of Famers ever came from the SWAC and came from HBCUs. Like, many of them. I know many of them. I'm not going to name them because you don't need to. You already know. When I say that, people already have names in their head. So he kind of brought that back a little bit. He brought the spotlight back to HBCUs. And there's a lot of guys who are sitting here like, hey, I think I'd rather go to Jackson State. You know what I'm saying? And then with him getting names on the back of the jerseys, and then now other HBCUs and SWAC teams are following that, he's bringing the entirety of HBCUs and SWAC teams up again, and I like that. And I really would hate to see him leave because yeah, he may have laid the foundation, but you really have to go get another guy. I mean, maybe if Jerry Rice wants to come and coach, I mean, you have to get someone like that to continue this trend. Um, but it is an FBS team, and we all see the reports that Dion is interested in that. Was it Colorado or Colorado State job? I think it's Colorado, right?
It was Colorado and USF.
Yeah, so you see he's interested in those jobs, and I wouldn't blame him if he leaves because at the end of the day, if you are serious about coaching, you always want to keep climbing the ladder, and that is a step up on the ladder. I mean, let's just be honest. Um, but I do think that he should stay, just for the culture, just for what he has done. I don't really think he can have that type of impact on an entire subsection of college football like he can where he is right now. So
I absolutely agree. 'Cause, I mean, going from a place like Jackson State to Tulane, I think is definitely going to be a culture shock, especially if he brings his two sons with him. I mean, let's be honest, there's a huge difference from Jackson State to Tulane. But I don't think Dion's leaving. If he does, I'd be pleasantly surprised. And if he is going to leave for an FBS team, it won't be Tulane. I can tell you that. It would probably be. I was him. If I had to pick out of Colorado or USF, I'd go to USF because I mean the bar there is set low, and I mean it's USF. So we got to move on to another. We got two more topics left of college football, so we got to get rolling. My Southeastern Lions had a home playoff game just over the weekend against Idaho. Southeastern wins 45-42. Moving on to the second round against Samford, they have to go to Alabama to go play them. Now, I am not surprised that we beat Idaho, but I am a little tad surprised it was that close because, in my opinion, I'm not trying to be biased, but I feel that Southeastern was the way better team. Now, the running attack of Southeastern has been there all year long, and I remember talking to one of the players. I remember messaging back and forth with one of the transfer players on Twitter. Was asking him, okay, how's the team look? How's the team look? He said, man, this might be the best running game that Southeastern's probably ever had in a long time. And I'm like, man, I really hope you're right. And he wasn't wrong. The Russian attack for Southeastern this year has been phenomenal, Calvin. The defense, I mean, you have a lot of great defensive players. I mean, one, of course, is from my alma mater, Slidell High. He's a freshman or about to be a sophomore. He's a linebacker, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have Zy Alexander at safety. You have my guy, Orlando Jordan, who was a former classmate of mine, too, when I was at Southeastern. I mean, the matchup against Sanford, Calvin, that's going to be an interesting one because Sanford was on a first round bye for a reason. They're 10-1. Southeastern might have their work cut out for them, but in your opinion, what does Southeastern need to do to beat Sanford? And if they do that, they got to go. What do they got to do to beat the powerhouse of the FCS that is North Dakota State?
man, North Dakota State still running stuff. Man, I remember back in like 2018, 2019, my cousin was starting at linebacker for Nichols. I believe they lost to North Dakota State, and it's like every year it's always North Dakota State. So they're still there. That's crazy. But man, that rushing attack has got to continue to be strong. I mean that just goes without saying. I mean, you got to be on point with the rushing attack. I think that's a good way that you can go ahead and win this game. Now, I don't really know much about Sanford because I'm an FBS boy. But I mean that's what I got. If you run the ball well, chances are you're going to win. I mean I've seen it personally. It's happened to us. I'm sure it's happened to you. We all know how that goes. But as for North Dakota State, North Dakota State's insane. They're one of those FCS teams that you could say, should they move up to FBS? I think so. I mean, they've been running the FCS for a good while now, and that would be really interesting to see them go into one of these like feeder program, maybe go to the MAC. That would be interesting. They're already up there up north. I mean, that would kind of work. But it'll be more or less the same. And I mean, the defense has got to be on point with North Dakota State because we know how North Dakota State's offense is. It's a pretty prolific offense. So that's what I got. I ain't too versed on this topic, so I'm gonna let you I'm gonna let you handle that
Well,
one.
I mean, the Sanford matchup is. I don't want to get too far ahead because I mean Southeastern. It's been a long time since I think they've even been in the third round of the FCS playoffs. I mean, haven't won a championship. I don't think, to my knowledge. If they have, it's been quite a long time. So this Sanford matchup is very intriguing. They are 10-1 for a reason. They have a very good offense, so the defense is going to have to be on their P's and Q's, of course. I love what the DC for Southeastern has been doing this year. I mean, what he's done, Coach Billy D, as some of them call him there in Hammond. He's done a terrific job, and the defense has been very good this year. And I got to give credit to the Southland Conference Coach of the Year, Frank Selfa. I mean, Cole Kelly leaves, and you still managed to be. You only get 3 losses. I mean, last year was just 2. You only lost one more game than last year. So, got to tip my hat off to Southeastern. So we got to quickly move through this last topic for college football. Then we got to get into some pro teams, Calvin. December 5th is when teams can start kind of, poaching at the transfer portal. It's like college football free agency, Calvin. There's a ton of names that's going to be out there. And we saw a few just from Texas A&M enter the transfer portal. And we also seen a quarterback that I'm very fond of, Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech, entered the transfer portal. Now, the question is, Calvin, do you think that basically this college football free agency period is going to change college football in a negative way or in a positive way?
So I think you're kind of leaning in the wrong direction there. You're on the right pace, but what it is NILs, right? The transfer portal now obviously you leave because you want better playing time, you want a better place, I mean a change of environment, whatever. There's a lot of different reasons, but now there's another big hitch that you have to add on to the cog of gears that we have going on in the transport. And that's NILs. And if you got to go to a place where you feel like you can make your money, and that's going to drive a lot of these top prospects now. We just seen the Michigan quarterback, K. McNamara. He's in the transfer portal now. He's not going to go to no, lower tier FBS school. He's not going to the Conference USA. He's not going to. He might go to something, but I doubt it. Um, stuff like he's probably gonna go to Pac-12. Big Ten, SEC. Doesn't matter. But that's because even with Quinn Ewers, right? Started out at Ohio State, got all that money. Now he's in Texas, getting even more money. So it's kind of like the pro free agency now, where you may not necessarily go to the place that's the best fit. You just probably go to the place that's gonna give you the most money. So that's something that's interesting to see, and I think that's slightly toxic to the lower end teams. I'm gonna use my school for example, Louisiana Tech. Just some of our numbers, we are almost dead last in about every financial category that you can imagine. Yeah, because we're the only school in the conference that doesn't have a student fee. So and we're also one of the only schools in the conference that students can go to the games for free. So money has always been a little issue there. So I'm going to put us up, for example. Let's say Cade here is choosing between La Tech and, I don't know, Colorado. Colorado, I would probably have to say, has more money than us. And maybe they say, hey, we are in this area, bigger city, more opportunities for you to get NIL deal, but you won't start immediately. You can come here to Tech. They'll say, hey, you can start immediately, but it's Ruston. There's not a lot to do. The money's going to be on the lower end. Okay, but you'll start. Okay, you might say, well, I'll go take my chances in Colorado with the QB competition because I can make me some good money and I am Cade. You know, I'm what is he? I believe he's a 4-star, high end 4-star, by the way, in Colorado. I mean, he's gonna make some money. I mean, he's gonna be like, Smoke Harris. He's gonna be like your boy Perkins. He's gonna be like Will Campbell. All these guys who are sponsored by what's that lawyer down south? You know what I'm talking about? Him.
Yeah, I know you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. All these guys are sponsored by these guys. It's gonna be the same situation. So that's what you really got to watch out for. NIL is going to be a big decider in where a lot of these guys go, and they're probably going to say something like, "Oh, well, it's because I get better place out." No, you get more money, and that's how it's going to work now. So that's what you got to look at.
That's why we're going to just call it transfer portal, college football free agency, because money's just going to be talking. So speaking of money, we got to talk about a big money sport, a big money topic, the NFL, and we're going to start with, of course, the New Orleans Saints, Calvin. I know it's unfortunate this week because we beat the Rams last week, but one thing I'm noticing, Calvin, all 4 of our wins this year came against bad teams. Came against bad teams. And I know people are going to say, oh, no, this team wasn't bad. This team wasn't bad. Nope, they were bad. The Falcons were bad because they're the Falcons. That's why we beat them in the fourth quarter in week 1 because they're the Falcons. Then this not too long ago, we beat the Rams, which I thought the Rams was going to blow us out. And then we beat the Raiders. And then refresh my memory, Calvin, what's the fourth one that we won? So we beat the Falcons, the Raiders, and the Rams. I can't think of the fourth one. I can't remember. So someone's got to refresh my memory. But for those watching, I apologize if I can't remember what the hell the fourth game was. But it just goes to show you how the hell this season's going and how
Yeah, just how forgettable this is. That
just how forgettable I want this season to be because it is very frustrating. So let's just go to the Frisco game now.
Oh, the Seahawks. That's right. The Seahawks.
The Seahawks. That's who it was. NFC West team. Unbelievable. So we played the San Francisco 49ers over the weekend, Calvin. And I knew we was going to kind of lose, but I didn't think we was going to see that much sloppy play from someone like Alvin Kamara. And then, I mean, the defense did what they could, but I mean, a lot of missed tackles. They had came out with a stat, Calvin, and man, I feel old just saying this because of how long ago it was. This was the first time the Saints have been shut out since the 2001 season, in the last week of the season, which was in January of 2002, and the head coach was Jim Haslett.
I believe we got shut out by San Francisco also.
Yeah. So they also came up with a stat. The last 4 times the Saints have been shut out was all against the San Francisco 49ers. So it was this past weekend against the 49ers we got shut out. Then was once with Jim Haslett. Then it was twice under Mike Ditka, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty horrible. Dennis Allen's in horrible company with that stat, Calvin. Jim Haslett, Mike Ditka. What the hell is wrong with this picture where Jim Haslett is a better coach than Dennis Allen? I mean, we was all comparing him to Jim Haslett earlier in the year, but we can't compare him to nobody because he's worse than even Ditka was. I mean, at least Ditka had emotion on the sideline, and he didn't look lost on the sidelines. Ditka at least tried. Jim Haslett might have had a little, stupid, like, non-emotional look on the sidelines, but at least the teams were better. I hate to say this, but that Katrina Saints team that went 3-13 in 2005, they had to play all over the damn place, is a better team than this Saints team right now. And I don't care if people come at me about it and say, "Oh no, you're crazy." That team at least had heart. That team at least played hard. Right now, I don't see that. And I know people are going to say, make a quarterback change, make a quarterback change. That's not going to make a damn difference right now. This Saints team is not going anywhere this year. From the jump, I said it was a wash, and it is, because the quarterback room is not good. Offense, you got someone like Kamara fumbling the ball, which we never really seen him fumble the ball like that until this year. Defense, I mean, was supposed to be top 3 in the league on paper going into the year. They have not been. I know we're missing someone like Lattimore and stuff, but everyone else seems to be healthy. I mean, we got everyone back but Lattimore and Werner. What's wrong with this picture? And all I keep hearing is make a quarterback change, da 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 da. And I am here to say that is not going to make a damn difference. Why? Because the coaching is horrible. The offensive play calling is horrible. This offense looks like how the play calling on this offense looks like how it did in probably, I don't know, 2007 when we went 7-9. And that 7-9 team was way better than this team that's going to probably be 4-13. Hate to say it, but it does. Now, I'm on the fire Dennis Allen train. I don't know about you, Calvin. I'm sure you are too, but two questions for this so I can just, kind of like, lower my blood pressure here because the Saints have just been boiling my burners, Calvin, and I'm not even kidding about that. So, two things. One, should Dennis Allen be one and done? And two, what needs to happen for this team to get back on track this year?
Now, yes, obviously, Dennis Allen should be one done. Dennis Allen should be yesterday and done, right? I think we all knew that, him being hired, we all kind of had that Stan Van Gundy vibe, like, all right, that wasn't the best, but it might be okay, but we're going to lean to know that was terrible. But we're going to see how it goes because you have a supposed good team. Obviously, that's not the case. I still don't believe that we are a bad team per se, right? Because it just doesn't make sense to me. We have the same people on the team that were winning, that were here when we were winning, right? Michael Thomas, Ramczyk, basically the whole 2017 class, most of them. You have guys that were winning, even in 2018, 2019, 2020. Some of these guys are still on this team. And last year, we know that a big reason why we lost that many games wasn't because of players, it was because of injuries. I mean, we had like 57,000 different people in the game or per roster, whatever. We had so many people. It was a revolving door at every position. There's a new name every single week. They have to patch a new jersey up. Probably put tape over somebody's last name. Put some duct tape on, write last name over. That's just about as bad as it was last year. And now this year is about even worse. Except the guys who were good are now bad. And there has been some extremely poor roster decisions that I don't know if that's Dennis Allen controlling that or if that's Mickey Loomis. They have been extremely questionable. They have been extremely terrible. Trading Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in any capacity was terrible. And then I'm not mad about the first round pick. I'm not, because Chris Olave is worth every single bit of that. I promise you, he is. He has been the one reason why I keep watching these games, to see Chris Olave. Because I love watching the guy. I love watching him in house, and I love watching him now for my team. The defense, I'm not even really mad at the defense from this week against the 49ers. We held the 49ers to 13 points. This wasn't a game that the 49ers won. This was a game that the Saints lost. The Saints had every opportunity to score more points than the 49ers. They started at midfield plenty of times. How many times did the Saints have a short field this game? Probably at least over 60% of the time. The defense did what they were supposed to do. We were in the red zone probably about 4 different times. Didn't score. I mean, you got Will Lutz missing kicks. Will Lutz has been, I don't even know. Will Lutz got his money and put on his ski mask. He robbed the Saints, I guess. You can't have that. You can't have him missing kicks like that. The play calling in the red zone. We did 4 passes in a row, which is questionable. You got to at least run it one time. You throw a fade route. That was the stupidest one. You throw a fade route to Taysom Hill. You have Chris Olave on the field, and you decide to throw it to a quarterback, turn tight end, turn running back, turn gunner on special. The guy is anything but a true receiver. And you run a fade route with him, with a cornerback on him. If it had a linebacker on him, sure. I don't understand that. And there's a lot of times where the play calling is, when it should be complex, it's too simple. And when it should be simple, it's too complex. We try to get too cute here, and it doesn't work. The team is so undisciplined, and it just seems like this team just doesn't care about anything. Because I've seen Alvin Kamara fumble, and he just walks to the sideline. No one tells him anything. He's just like, oh, well, I was going about my day. And then he's in on the first play of the next series. Man, if Sean Payton seen that, Sean Payton, he would not be out there for at least 1 or 2 series. Guaranteed.
Coaching really does matter, Calvin. Coaching matters. And the one example I always use, my dad actually used to use this example with me when I was growing up, and it's always stuck with me. He always told me this is how you know coaching matters. He used Tulane as an example. 1998, Tulane went undefeated, went number 7, won the Liberty Bowl, everything. They finished 12-0. Tommy Bowden was the head coach. Next year, Tommy Bowden leaves to go to Clemson. They have everybody back. Everybody. They promote from within. Chris Selfo, who was related to Southeastern coach Frank Selfo, promote from within. They go 3-8 the next year. Same people, same everything, but Tommy Bowden isn't there. As you can see, coaching makes a difference. Last year, with a banged up team and 4 different quarterbacks, went 9-8 last year with Sean Payton.
And Trevor Siemian didn't look too bad. He had me thinking, hey, I'm fine with him starting. He didn't look too bad, but we just had
And then
practice
Taysom,
squad receivers.
right, and then Taysom Hill comes in. I mean, he didn't look bad either. I mean, he was working with what he had, and he was winning games. But here's the difference: Sean Payton is over here, great coach, known for winning and being a genius head coach. Dennis Allen's over here, known for losing, averages 4 wins a season as a head coach. He got fired in his 3rd year as a head coach because he started 0-6. But yeah, that's the guy I want being my head coach. The guy who had an 8-28 record before he took the job. That's the guy that I really wanted. I can't even compare the guy to Stan Van Gundy because at least Stan Van Gundy in the NBA won. And you know what? I'm gonna move on to a way happier topic
Look,
because it's just
to answer your question, what we should do to fix the Saints, I really think it's just as simple as just changing the whole coaching staff. You might even change the front office. I mean, you got to get some damn athletes on this team because this team is slow as hell. All right, they are. The defense is slow. The defense is getting old. We're one of the oldest teams in the league. Get younger. Stop trading your young pieces away for peanuts and signing old people. Stop it. Stop doing it. I thought we would have learned our lesson with Jairus Byrd, Jared Cook, and more, etc., etc., etc. Stop doing it. Don't let Marcus Williams walk for Marcus May, who apparently can't put down a bottle and just keeps getting DUIs repeatedly and can't stay on the field anyway. I'm cool with Tyrann Mathieu, but he is old now. He looks bad. If you would have signed him just because, that would have been cool. But don't let Marcus Williams walk for that. Don't trade Chauncey Gardner-Johnson because you think you got depth, because depth in the NFL is a lie. Because we all know that at any given second, now you got your 4th string out there because of injuries. So that depth stuff can go out the window. Give me as much talent as I possibly can. Look at the Eagles. Eagles got about 6 starters on the defensive tackle position alone. Any one of them guys, their 4th string can go and start on my team. That's about how deep they are. So get younger by any means necessary. I still think you can keep most of the core. Yeah, I'm talking about Michael Thomas too and AK. I just think their heart just isn't in it right now because we have a terrible coach. You look at Brandon Ingram, for example. Brandon Ingram last year looked like he just did not care about basketball. None of the team did because Stan Van Gundy was coach. Now he got Willie Green. This guy loves basketball. He looks so happy out there. He's so energetic. He's playing the best basketball he's ever played in his career. You give Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas a coach like that's going to revitalize him and rejuvenate him. I promise you, Michael Thomas will be back. Hey, all this trade talk, y'all going to stop saying it. He's going to be back to the Michael Thomas of old. And the same goes for the other players. Cam Jordan, all these other guys. Tyrann Mathieu might even play better. I promise you, just get a new coach. That's what you do. Just get a new coach.
And before I move on, I'll just say I know a perfect one. I'm not going to say his name because everyone knows who it is. So moving on to the final topic is the NBA part of the podcast. We're going to talk about the Pelicans. They had a tough loss to Memphis not too long ago, Calvin, but Brandon Ingram left the game with what they call a left big toe sprain. So he's probable tonight against Oklahoma City Thunder. But Kyra Lewis has been called up, and Kyra Lewis is now back after tearing his ACL last year. Now we have a good problem, but where does Kyra Lewis fit is going to be my question. But also, if Bi and CJ are going to be out for an extended period because CJ just is sick again. I mean, he already had the flu. Now this time, I mean, it could be anything. So I hope he gets well and do whatever you
Gotta,
can to get
gotta,
back.
gotta stop licking those toilet seats, CJ. You gotta stop doing it, man.
Okay,
He's out here licking toilet seats.
let's not
That's
accuse
what he's doing.
let's not accuse people of doing anything because I don't want to get sued. But so Kyra Lewis is back. I don't know how much run he's going to get tonight, but going forward, this Pelicans team, if Zion is just a predominant guy, let's say, for example, tonight, November 28th against Oklahoma City Thunder, do you like this matchup and do you think we can win this game? Because it seems like when BI and CJ don't play, we struggle.
I mean, that's the case in any team. One of your top two guys. Our big three is weird because our big three isn't layered like everyone else. Like, for example, with Miami, right? With LeBron there. LeBron is the number one. That's number one. Number two is D Wade. Number three is Chris Bosh. We all know that. It never changed. But for us, some games it's Zion, Bi, CJ. Some games it's CJ, Bi, Zion. Some games it's Bi, like you know what I'm saying. Like it switches so many times. It's hard. Really, all three of them don't ever really get over 20 plus points together at the same time. It's a combination of the two, and that's what makes this team unique because it's so flexible like that. So when you have two guys who are scoring 20 plus or can score 20 plus points for you in any situation on any team, when they go down, you're going to struggle. I mean, that's just how that is. And I like the matchup. Yes, Shea is on an unreal, I'll even say MVP type run, but the team's terrible. It's OKC. Their team sucks. They stink. All right. I would like to hope that we can beat the OKC team, who essentially is just one person. But we know how the Pels are. Um, I think it's a good matchup. I think we should be fine in theory. Um, hopefully, Kira does get some run. I'm curious. They also called up Sebron, so that's interesting.
You
Are
know
we are
how I
we gonna are we gonna have a 40-yard dash team out there? What's going on here? Because those two are probably the fastest in the league. That's easily the fastest combo in the league if they're on the court together. So I think what this means, this is really going to solidify if Devontae Graham is here or not. I think we all know Jackson Hayes is gone. All right, the guy is terrible. He hasn't developed not a lick since he's been in the league. Um, draw that up as a bust. But Devontae, he has too many games where he's good and too many games where he's bad, and you just don't know. But Kerr come out here and do what he has to. I think you have to roll with my boy Kerr. I think you just have to. Uh, And then, hey, I'm sure teams would pay a nice little pretty penny. I'm sure Dave Griffin and Trey John can finesse a first-round pick from teams for Jackson Hayes and Devontae Graham or a combination of them. So that would be interesting to see. But glad that Kira's back. Let's just say that I'm extremely glad that he's back healthy. I've been excited to watch the guy since we drafted him. And hopefully him and Herb can get some of that Alabama juice going together. Um, and hey, man, let's go out here and win this game.
I'm not gonna put. I'm not gonna shake off any team that we play against anymore. Where I'm saying, oh, we should beat the hell out of them no matter what because of how they've been playing. Learn my lesson from that, from the LSU games and also the Saints games over the years. So I'm just gonna say I hope it's a good game. I think it will be a good game, and hopefully the Pelicans come out victorious. And the last thing I'll say is I'm happy that Kyra Lewis is back because we could use a lot more firepower because it seems like Bi and CJ are going to be dealing with some injuries. So maybe Kira or Kyra, however you want to pronounce it. Either way, I'm fine because I'm glad that we drafted him. I remember not too long ago when I was actually in that Pelicans group chat with you, I was telling people, I said, Kyra Lewis is number one on my board for that specific draft. And I remember when we drafted him, I'm like, holy shnikes, we drafted him. So I'm very happy that he's back. I'm very excited to see what he brings to the table. And I just hope he looks like how we did in college. I mean, so we're at the end, Calvin. We're at the wrap up portion of the podcast. Went a little long today, but we had a lot to talk about, especially in the college football world. So I'm gonna let you get your little, 12 bars to say whatever you want, and then I'll say mine, and then we will be moving on.
Fire Dennis Allen. Your boy graduated, so shout out. I'm a free agent in the world, the real world. Um, yeah, man, that's birthday. My birthday's in 2 days, so comment happy birthday if y'all really mess with us. Um, so yeah, man. Play my last college football game, maybe. Stay
Oh,
tuned
just
for
go.
that.
Oh, leave us in suspense. I love that. So
Yeah.
my little 12 bars is fire Dennis Allen, hire Bieniemy, draft Hendon Hooker. Uh, the Lakers suck. I don't care how much they win. They still suck. AD is not getting a tribute video. He can, keep him and his terrible potato chips there in LA. And yeah, that's all I got to say. And I think this was a good show, Calvin. So before we move on, do you have any final words before we leave?
This guy. I know the odds of getting him are slim, but that guy right there is cold. So is Drake May. Look out for him. Look out for him.
I don't think we're going to be that bad, but we shall see. All right, you guys, this was another great edition of The Hit. Calvin and I will hopefully be back next week. So, till then, see ya.